Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another broadcast of Proving Grounds here for the final day of round 1 in the upper bracket, aka round 2 of Proving Grounds in general. I'll be your host for the day. You can call me Kangas, and I'm joined by the always lovely Jolly and Joshi. You even have alliteration with your names. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Aww.
Jolly, we were
You
on
can
the
call
same
us JJ
broadcast
'cause we're
together
Mama
last time.
Bear.
This is great. This is 2 in a row.
Yeah, 2 in a row, and hopefully all great series of games. We got it last time, so hey, the trend continues.
Josh, I didn't catch what you said. What was that?
Oh, I was just saying you can call us Mama Bear because today we're JJ.
JJ.
I like it. I like it. Good transition. For all the Dignitas fans that are currently out there watching, they will not be playing today, unfortunately. But we do have a lot of fun action, just like Jolly was saying. So let's take a look at the bracket and how things have been shaken out so far in the tournament, because the big narrative on everybody's mind, if you've been keeping track of Proving Grounds through Academy and the Unified Qualifiers, there's only one amateur team remaining in the upper bracket right now. That is 100 Thieves Next. Obviously, there's a lot on this graphic. We'll be populating this throughout the event, so that way it'll be updated. But the big news, Joshi, 100 Thieves Next, the last team from amateur in this upper bracket.
Yeah, but we have to admit that not only is it the last hope, it's probably the best hope. This is the #1 seed coming out of the Proving Grounds qualifiers, and they looked really, really good, taking first in the first OQ, the first PGQ, the second OQ, and they only fell to Maryville eventually. And so we have a lot of high hopes riding on this team.
Exactly. As we also take a look at the lower bracket next up here. Jolly, I hate to say it and bring it to you next because you're the representative from the teams coming from the amateur circuit here. What's going on?
I'm kind of upset. I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of upset that you asked Joshi about 100 Thieves Next because I was super stoked to talk about that team and try to hype them up. But here we are in the lower bracket where, you know, this is, I guess, my domain, I suppose you could say, as a lot of the amateur teams are unfortunately down here. But still, they performed really well, and kind of that's the expectation, right, moving on in here. A lot of these players are just excited to be here.
Exactly, and this is, I think even Kelsey Moser, producer slash, ex-Academy coach, even tweeted out that this is theoretically how the system should be working because of all the extra resources that Academy teams have been getting. So it's interesting that it's starting to be reflected in the bracket. But of course, we know that there's still some teams that have really pushed Academy teams to their limits throughout those brackets. So it's not to say that amateurs doomed. They still have a good shining light here. Jolly, I'll let you talk about them now. 100 Thieves Next are the last and possibly the best hope for amateur going forward.
Yeah. The last but best. That's another line by Moser right there for amateur. And I am really excited about this team. They're all incredible. Obviously, everybody talks about General Sniper because he's a madman. Fnatic has been very impactful here in the jungle. Really, just the entire team overall has been so cohesive, so on point. And it seems like they're getting better and better.
Exactly. And Josh, they're up against FlyQuest Academy today, one of the lower seeded Academy teams that we have coming into Proving Grounds, but not necessarily, I don't think their form at the end of the season was reflected in their seeding. Do you agree?
Oh, for sure. We saw a lot of improvement coming up from FlyQuest in the second half of the season, particularly from one of the star players, Yuji, who at the very beginning was looking kind of rough, but he eventually found his form. He figured out how to play a bit more patient, play with a bit more presence of mind throughout these team fights, and it's made him look so much better towards the end that I don't feel like FlyQuest is going to be as weak as their seed initially implies.
Exactly. And that's the big match that we have. We also, of course, have Cloud9 Academy versus TSM Academy today. So we get a little bit of civil war from the Academy front to close out the day. It's going to be a lot of fun games ahead of us. But let's recap before we get into the show ahead of us what happened yesterday. Because, of course, we did still have Proving Grounds action going on. And in particular, man, 100 Thieves Academy, not Next, 100 Thieves Academy actually had an insane pop-off from Jimmy in particular. That was a really fun one to watch, Joshi.
It really was. And I've been asking, like, where was this 100 Thieves Academy during the regular season? They were our lowest team in the second round robin. We were asking, this is a team that was supposed to be one of our best ones the entire time. And now that they're finally looking really good, I'm excited to see where they go from here.
And we actually have a clip that we want to play from their last series, highlighting exactly what Jimmy was able to pull off. So let's take a look.
He goes, but they want to chase this down. Chains connect. Dragoon, he can heal up a lot. Same with Jimmy. Pop a World Ender for World Ender. With the chains coming back in, but he goes golden to be able to survive. Thompson on the other side of the wall, but he can't get in, or can Jimmy in. 1v3, the legend here from PCS. He'll find a triple kill.
My goodness, like what, the triple kill to close it out was absolutely insane. And I think Jimmy stepping up that level of play, Joshi, like you said, where was this from Under Thieves Academy earlier on in the Academy season?
Right, he was really well known for a lot of his defensive play. I thought that was the best part of him, but now that we're seeing him come alive when he's up against the wall, it makes him look so much better. And I gotta say, Kingslayer plus World Ender, hell of a drug, man.
Exactly, exactly. But Jolly, outside of just 100 Thieves Academy, CLG Academy also had their debut on the Proving Ground stage. And I didn't hear this story, honestly, until today. I was a little out of the loop, but apparently there was some shenanigans going on in the coaching booth. Jolly, do you know anything additional about that one? Or are we together in this?
No, I don't recall.
Joshi, catch us up. What was going on in
know.
CLG Academy's coaching booth?
Look, Greg Kim has got some history of being a little rambunctious when things are getting a little bit too excited. And one of the big things that we got to see, he's not allowed to wear baseball caps in the coach's room anymore because he's throwing it all over the place.
Of course, the players had their own responses as well to the tweet. Yep, sorry. Breezy, Cloud, he's so polite. First of all, sorry. Yep, of course, the very polite boys from the bottom lane there saying their apologies for maybe giving Greg a little bit of a heart attack in some of those games. But, hey, of course, they were up against Evil Geniuses Academy, so really tough opponent for them. But, Jolly, I'm happy that I was not alone in not knowing the context of this. So thank you, Joshi, for queuing us in
Greg.
there. Yeah, we wanted to highlight that for sure. But then also the big story we were talking about, Jolly, 100 Thieves Academy, or rather, sorry, 100 Thieves Next. They are the last chance in the upper bracket for amateur teams, but they have played against Academy teams in the past, right?
Oh yeah, plenty of times. I mean, this team is very seasoned. When you consider even the young players like General Sniper, like we were talking about, this has been a classic for them. So we're going to take a look here. Honestly, Golden Guardians Academy, this is a fantastic game. And Golden Guardians really taking so much from them. The recoverability of this team is one of the things that is mostly exceptional. And I think you can never count them out, no matter how far behind they might appear.
Exactly. And Joshi, as we look at this was, of course, when they knocked out Golden Guardians Academy in a previous qualifier, back when Golden Guardians Academy was, before the season even started, they were just trying to get some reps in. We know the Golden Guardians and Oregon like to do this.
Yeah, this is definitely a spot where we were using Golden Guardians as kind of our metric as how strong all the different levels of play were. And when we saw 100 Thieves Next take this down in a quick 3-0 fashion, we were all just like, oh my god, 100 Thieves Next the real deal? Is this a team that currently an amateur should actually be in LCS? Because they looked so incredible. We know that 100 Thieves Next have beaten stronger teams in Academy than FlyQuest, and that's one of the big reasons why we're so hyped about this roster.
Exactly. I believe at the beginning of the season, Cubby, another caster on the show, was saying things like 100 Thieves Next would be a top 4 Academy team based on the current form that we saw. And a lot of that was because of this performance where they have experience against this level of play. Reminder, Golden Guardians were a top 3 Academy team at the end of the standings. So, like you said, they've taken air quote tougher teams than FlyQuest Academy. Of course, now we've had an entire split of play for FlyQuest to get all their players on the same page, get Yuji and Diamond shot calling together. So it's going to be a different look for FlyQuest, of course, but it's cool that 100 Thieves Next are at least able to hang with the Academy teams, and we've seen that in the past, Jolly.
Oh yeah, we've seen this team just work wonders, right? Going undefeated for the majority of the season, and it's just the consistency, like I was talking about, and the adaptability too. It doesn't matter what kind of team they're going up against, early game, late game. You know, they stick with what they know works well. They're also not too scared to go kind of out of bounds and pick up some wacky plays. If you see something new and fresh, it's probably from this amateur team.
The young guns, man, they're bringing a new style of play potentially to some of these Academy players. But of course, last hope, best hope of the amateur teams remaining in the upper bracket. Let's take a look at the schedule ahead of us, though, today. We've been teasing it throughout the entire pre-show. It is, of course, starting off with that 100 Thieves Next versus FlyQuest Academy matchup. Very exciting one right there to see how the next team fares. And then Cloud9 Academy versus TSM Academy to round out the day. Joshi, we haven't talked too much about TSM Cloud9. If you had, like, a quick Spark Notes elevator pitch for why that's an exciting match as well, I'm going to give you the mic right here. Sell me on it.
I mean, this is definitely a situation where we've been seeing TSM Academy look so much better towards the end of the season. Hyper has started looking way better in the past couple of games, and Cloud9, they've been proven to be mortal recently. A lot of teams able to take a lot of games off of them, so TSM rising while Cloud9 potentially in a bit of stagnation gives that TSM that same opportunity as their LCS squad of taking down the C9 squad.
I was actually chatting with some of the players from Immortals Academy side, and I was just asking them, like, how do you feel about the field improving grounds right now? Obviously, they're going to have a biased answer as they are players themselves, but I specifically referenced Cloud9, and the general consensus was they're not even a top 3 team in Academy. A lot of teams have been figuring out how to play around Malice's jungle play style, how to abuse the weaknesses of Cloud9 Academy. So if TSM have been doing the research and Hyper has a good game, like he's been having a couple strings together here, that could be an exciting match as well. But a reminder, if that blindsided you and you didn't know the matches that were being played today, probably because you weren't following a certain social media account, aka on Twitter at Path2LCS. Make sure you follow that one right now so you can get all the standings updates, the schedule updates, all the silly skits that we do and content that we make for the show will also usually get posted on there as well. So make sure you're following that one so you can stay up to date on everything amateur and academy. The path to pro in North America for LCS. Exciting stuff. But that does it for our pre-show. We're going to set it to a short break before we are back getting ready for match number 1 to break down exactly what you should be expecting going into this best of 3 after this. And we're back, everybody, for match number 1, a best of 3 ahead of us here for the last hope / last chance of amateur representatives in the upper bracket. 100 Thieves Next versus FlyQuest Academy. A lot of fans have been waiting for this match. Whether you've been watching the journey of 100 Thieves Next up to this point through all the qualifiers, or if this is your first time seeing them, either way, it's going to be very exciting. So we're going to hold off on chatting about the big team that a lot of people are looking at and start with FlyQuest Academy to warm us up into it. Joshi, I want you to intro in FlyQuest Academy for me here as, again, the team we chatted briefly about in the pre-show. They are lower seed coming in from the Academy scene, but their trajectory at the end of the season was looking positive.
Yeah, and let's be real. I'll just start off with the bias. I want the team with Philip Twin. Philip is so adorable. He's a great upcoming player,
Fair
and
enough.
I really want them to do well. But the player I got to spend a lot of time looking at is how much UG has grown as a player. One of our few players who has come from across the Pacific, coming from Mongolia. He's been looking really, really strong as he starts shifting towards things like the Jarvan, the Kiana, and anything that can really just do a whole lot of damage and has a lot of agency on his own. He's really started to figure out how to mesh with the rest of the team. As we watch a little bit more of this, just seeing him play things like this Diana, where he has all the big go buttons, just makes him look so good when you pair him up with players like Spyrax.
everybody they're coming together on the side of FlyQuest. We saw obvious growing pains. Yuji's a player that was absolute solo queue stud in the past. He got challenger on the Chinese Super Server, got challenger in Europe as well, while he was still in Mongolia. Then he came here to NA. He got challenger very fast towards the top of the ladder. I think he was rank 1
rank
for
5.
Rank 5. Okay, all right. Rank
well, in his
5
first
for the
year,
North American
he was
server.
rank 5. He hit rank 1 this year for sure.
There we go. Yuji, regardless, we know that as an individual player, very skilled at the game of League of Legends. It was about how does he fit with the team? How do they communicate? How do they make plays happen? Because solo queue and team play, very different things. But throughout the season, with the tutelage of Diamond, a player who's been in Academy for a couple of years now, has a lot of this experience under his belt playing with newer players, they're looking really solid at this current form.
And there's a couple players that I kind of want to compare him to, right? We saw Rosethorn and Tomio, some of the big solo queue stars from last year, have a lot of the similar growing pains to what we saw from Yuji, right?
Yeah.
They were playing in a lot of different ways that were very solo queue focused and very selfish and not necessarily pathing around the rest of the team. And that took Yuji a little while to figure out, but it seems like he's gotten a lot better with it now. It's a big opportunity for him to try and strut his stuff up against 100 Thieves.
So that's what we're expecting from FlyQuest Academy. Continued synergy between the jungler and the rest of the team. And kind of similar story, I suppose, in terms of focus here from 100 Thieves next. But Jolly, talk to me now about the team that a lot of people are probably tuning into this very broadcast to check out.
Okay, I mean, you literally cannot look at this roster and not talk about Sniper. I know it feels like that's all we talk about when we look at 100 Thieves, but there's a big reason. Again, so many young players on this team right here. But Fnatic has been doing an incredible job. Even the off games, he's still a very resilient core player to the team. And I mean, can really feed up Array. Sword, of course, we all know and love. There's enough, even though it's young players, it's still veterancy within players because they've been playing for such a long time and bouncing around between so many teams. The adaptability just forms so well among these guys. And they really are the last hope. And that, I mean, I don't want to kind of, not to put down any of the other teams, but there's just a massive step above that 100 Thieves Next has had this entire season, this entire split.
Based on the form that we've seen them in. But Joshi, we're actually going to take a look at Yuji's opposition in the jungle here as we get in this replay package. Talk to me about Fnatic.
Fnatic has been looking pretty darn good. Oh, we didn't have the transition. Bit of a tragedy, but that's okay. Fnatic is one of these players that isn't necessarily going to be the most mechanically impressive, right? Not to say he's bad at it, but the big thing is he stands in really good places throughout every single one of these team fights. And because he has so much opportunity to continue playing with all these higher level teams, we've been seeing that he has developed. He is well past the point of Yuji in just already having these basic jungle paths down. He's able to mix them up a lot better than Yuji, and that's one of the big opportunities for them to continue finding opportunities to build up all of these big leads. And we'll see if his standing in good place is going to be enough to overcome the mechanical superstar that Yuji can be.
Because that's the difficulty of that matchup, Jolly. When we look at the difference between Fnatic and Yuji is just this player that will go for these crazy plays. He will straight up just try and 1v3 you in your own jungle. Fnatic, I mean, he does have some reps under his belt, though, right? I mean, we look at his accolades. He has 4 Academy splits, 2 Scouting Grounds attendances, and peak Proving Grounds placement, 7th to 8th. Not too shabby.
Oh, no, absolutely not. And, you know, of course, he forgot to shake Wild Turtle's hand. You know, that's definitely a chip on his shoulder. And there's proof of that, too, I believe, in a previous tweet right here.
Oh, man.
That's what you get.
Just ice.
APA, yes. Yep. I mean, hey, you know what? He's smiling, though. At least you get good vibes from this guy. And he really is just absolutely spectacular. And like I said, just a core player, right? You can tell he's as nice as he looks.
Yeah. My favorite part of seeing that at the very end too was I asked him about this. You know, should this be going into the pre-show? And he was like, "Yeah, it's super appropriate. I'm going up against FlyQuest at the same time." And Wild Turtle got the FlyQuest jersey on back in the day, so lots of opportunities to see all this rivalry.
Yeah, and actually, Fnatic even had a little bit of something to say about his opinion of some of the Academy teams. So we're gonna try it one more time. Let's take a look.
I think a good amount of the Academy teams have been avoiding scrimming us, and all of them use the excuse as, oh, the ping, you know, but I think they're simply just scared of scrimming us.
We got it that time. We nailed it. Good job. Good transition, everybody. Hey, they're afraid to scrim? I mean, that alone, that speaks volumes, Jolly. If an Academy team doesn't want to scrim 100 Thieves next, And 100 Thieves Next are winning every amateur tournament.
Yeah, you'd think that's good practice. They're just missing out. Honestly, at the end of the day, hey, that's their loss, but that's where the chip is reduced on their shoulders, all right? This team, I mean, they're coming in. They have a lot of confidence, and they really deserve to be in the upper bracket right here. It's unfortunate the last team, but I don't think we're going to see them get knocked down tonight.
Last hope, best hope coming in from 100 Thieves Next. We are ready for pick and ban, though, so no more talking about the players and the teams. Let's actually see what they're bringing to the Rift as I pass it over to Jolly and Joshi for game number 1.
Oh, thank you very much, Kangas. All right, this is where things get exciting, Joshi. I know I have been looking forward to this game so much today. And I think, I want to ask you, where do you think the biggest focus is going to be for both of these teams now competing against each other, especially with so much on the back of 100 Thieves right now?
I mean, I feel like we've been talking about it, right? It's got to be the jungle. We've been seeing Yuji have a big glow up. We know Fnatic has been really strong. Before we go too far, Jolly, we got to address the questions in Twitch chat. What the hell are we watching right now? What is Proving Grounds? What are all these teams? I recognize 100 Thieves, I recognize FlyQuest, but this isn't the 100 Thieves Academy that we know. What's actually going on here in Proving Grounds?
Oh, so much. Proving Grounds, we have, excuse me.
You good?
I ate some weird food earlier today.
I know that's a tough question, but I'll go ahead and take it over for you. I'll save you. Proving Grounds, welcome to everybody. This is our Academy playoffs mixed with the amateur playoffs. If you've been watching the Tier 2 esports here for a long time, you know that we always have an opportunity to see our Academy teams and our amateur teams come together to play against each other to show where all the new development has been coming from. And that's why we're so excited to see all the new players developing and coming through, right? Yuji's in his first split, but a lot of the players coming out on the side of 100 Thieves Next, like Insanity, have had opportunities to play at the highest level, and others like Sniper are simply too young to even play an academy at all. So by seeing all of these young players, we get to see where the new generation of talent coming in for LCS is going to be next year.
And that is just
you good?
so I am.
Welcome
I
back.
am. Oh, thank you. We should be fine, I think. Apparently my lunch is not agreeing with me right now. This is just, it's an incredible setup, though, that both of these teams have. FlyQuest Academy, I mean, they're going to start this out by picking on Sniper, which is absolutely expected. That's something that you have to do if you're going up against a team like 100 Thieves Next. Again, I'm getting sick of talking about Sniper, but he makes it impossible for me to stop at this point. So on the other side, of course, just like you were talking about, Yuji, a big expectation of having a lot of a big impact on this game. So FlyQuest Academy not going to be able to go with a comfort pick.
Boom. Now we got a little bit of zoom in as well, but yeah, we see lots of opportunities here. Yuji going with the Viego, a little bit outside what we've typically been seeing, right? There's been a lot of Jarvan, we've seen some Hecarim, we've seen the Diana and the Kiana fairly recently, and this Viego is definitely something very different. But on the other side, I love what 100 Thieves have been doing already. Array has shown some great Zeri play in the past, and picking up the Nautilus as well as one of the few easy answers to go up against the Zeri. You don't want to let Diamond play that because it is the one point-and-click crowd control that is always going to be guaranteed to hit this area, and it does mean that FlyQuest have to find some different answers, and I'm surprised that Jinx has already fallen by the wayside.
I am incredibly surprised. We've been seeing Jinx as a first pick here. I mean, it's not a surprise that they're going for something for Yuji that is very powerful and very flexible for early picks here, but I mean, Aphelios, he's very strong. Recently, it has been those three as the top picks. Caitlyn has kind of fallen to the wayside, and a great one to be matched here with the Aphelios, especially going into somebody like the Nautilus who has that point-and-click crowd control. Is someone like the Leona, a couple of those enchantresses, also kind of falling to the side as of late.
Yeah, and so far, other than this, like, despite the fact that the order is a little bit unusual for both teams, it's definitely a situation where we're seeing all these champions and no big surprises coming out just quite yet in terms of what they've actually picked. And so I kind of want to zoom in a little bit on some of our players that we've already been talking about, right? We haven't necessarily had a whole lot of opportunity to contrast our bottom lane at all. Tomo and Diamond, some of the longest tenured players here coming in for FlyQuest. They've been playing in LCS. They've had plenty of opportunities to play in Academy, and they've looked really, really good as kind of the core rock that FlyQuest often builds around. They're not necessarily going to be super explosive, but they always know where to be on the map. Whereas Array and Sword, relatively young players coming through. Array has had some opportunity to build himself up on the 100 Thieves Next for a little while now, and Sword, having moved from the mid lane to support, still trying to find his way and prove that he really belongs on all of these top level teams and maybe an opportunity to play in Academy next year.
Array and Diamond are the two standouts though. And when it comes to support right now, it has been so big in terms of the roaming meta and kind of pairing up with these mobile jungles that we've been seeing really grow. So when you're gonna have to, pick between a hyper aggressive, good hyper carry ADC or a hyper roaming aggressive support, that's a tie for me. I appreciate both of those, and so I think it's a really nice opportunity too for Sword and Tomo here coming in as kind of newer players to be able to rely on these resilient, even though they're still newer, more veterancy underneath their belts.
And we'll see how much that actually comes through. I love what 100 Thieves are doing, right? They've already picked up the Jays. They know Sniper is going to be really strong on the sideline. And while his laning is good, it's not going to be blowing a lot of the Academy top lanes out of the water. But his ability to fight later on is really exciting. So just making sure that he's not going to be going up against something really unusual or a really tough counter pick means that Sniper will have a little bit more freedom early on in the game and to kind of scale into the later game Jace where the poke just becomes unbearable for the rest of the team. Really good stuff coming out for 100 Thieves, and now they're trying to see what kind of counter pick they want to go over to Insanity a little bit later on.
I love the Volibear pick as well here for Fnatic. Super aggressive, and if you're going to be going up against somebody like Viego, who you need to jump on in the early game, you can't really let him scale up into the later game, build all of these items. Volibear is a great way to stop that and also supply the crowd control that Jace is lacking for this game. So I do really like that. Paired up with the Nautilus too, the Volibear can be absolutely devastating. You get a depth charge. I mean, you land anything really and you're able to follow it up with some damage there. So I appreciate the heck out of that. And Sion, I like to see that, Joshi.
Yeah, a really strong counter pick going into the Jace as well. It's kind of been forgotten about because everybody's been super focused on the Malphite historically, but this is another champion that has a lot of opportunities to just push around the Jace, and something that hasn't really been in Philip's wheelhouse. We've been seeing him play things like the Aatrox that have a lot of individual agency that can take over these mid and later game team fights, but you don't want to play that into Sniper's Jace. Instead, going to be going with the Sion, and Spyrax going to be going onto the Ahri. As one of our collegiate players who played on Maryville, he's definitely got a lot of opportunities to play against a lot of these teams previously. And I'm excited to see whether or not he will be able to take over Insanity, who is, again, probably the most veteran player that we have on 100 Thieves.
We have seen so much of not only this matchup, but these two champions as well showing up in the recent meta. It's so much burst damage, and that's really what a lot of these teams are going for. Early game potential as well as later game scaling. And of course, Insanity is going to be the one that's on the upper hand in that instance. So looking at the late game, 100 Thieves next have set themselves up so very nicely. But FlyQuest Academy, similar things can be said. I'm kind of worried for FlyQuest Academy, though, just based on the early game damage that 100 Thieves next is going to be able to offer.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting to me as I look at these two teams is the fact that FlyQuest, despite the fact that I feel like they're going to get really outranged later on, they're going to have a lot of difficulties trying to lock down Zeri later on in the game, the thing that they have a lot of is agency, right? Yeah. The Ophelia is well known for going for Gale Force forward, using that ultimate, locking somebody down and blowing them up. Ahri doing the exact same thing. Sion can just get fights started basically whenever he feels like, and it feels like every single member here on the FlyQuest squad has the ability to make these big plays, whereas on 100 Thieves, they're oftentimes kind of waiting for FlyQuest to come in a lot of the time. They're going to be keeping them at range with the poke, but they don't necessarily have the ability to just go for fights all on their own, and that's going to be where FlyQuest is really going to need to try and push their advantage.
I don't know, a Stormbringer and a really good depth charge, or, a good Nautilus ulti. We're talking about a lot of potential crowd control.
Those are two players. What about the other three?
That's true. I think you're right. Until we get to that team fighting stage, then yeah, there is a little bit of a hindrance, but that range that we are going to have backing up this 100 Thieves next team, we'll have to see if it pulls through. All right, I'm pulling for this amateur team, Joshi. You know that I've got just the tiniest bit of bias going through here. So
it's okay.
I have to admit it. So I like both of these teams. I think this is very even keeled. This is a great way to start out this series, and it's very contentious between them. So there's a lot of calculation going into every decision that they're making today.
Oh, for sure. And I know we had our producers ask for predictions earlier on, and we didn't actually get to have a chance to put them up on screen. So let's just go ahead and do that verbally. I gotta be honest, I'm with you today, Jolly. I predicted 100 Thieves 2-1 in this series before anything started. I think this is not only the amateur team's last hope, but also their best hope going up here against FlyQuest. What do you think?
I have the exact same thing, Joshi. I went 100 Thieves. I gotta do it. I really think they have it in them, but I do think that FlyQuest has, they have the capabilities, more than the capabilities, to be able to take a game here off of 100 Thieves. We'll have to see exactly when that comes, though, and if we do get a full 3-game series as we hop into game number 1.
fairly standard fan coming out from both sides. And again, we're not necessarily expecting 100 Thieves to have this super explosive early game. They've got some good range, they've got some good poke tools to play with, but it's not like they're going to be upset taking this game a little bit later, right? Array and Insanity were always these players that were really thriving in team fights. Sniper, one of the best team fighters that Amateur has seen in a long time. And it's definitely something that I feel like 100 Thieves can naturally find themselves around. So I feel like the pressure is on Yuji in a lot of ways to try and upset a lot of the pathing that Fnatic is going to be going for. And we've seen Yuji make leaps and bounds, but Fnatic is one of those solid junglers that we've seen in the amateur scene for a long time. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
He doesn't like to make mistakes, and he likes to play aggressive. That's something we can absolutely expect with this Volibear. Honestly, something I love about just watching Amateur is how early the gank potential is. Level 2 even. Not even waiting for level 3 for a lot of these players, and Fnatic is absolutely one of those. And the recognition, too, of this matchup of, hey, the later it goes, you know, we might get ahead. But Tomo, Diamond, just incredible players on the bottom side too. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get some focus by Yuji there early on, if it's not just to counter Fnatic.
Oh, for sure. You already see that he's starting up on the top side, but is well known. Sniper harassing them at the very beginning. And they also know, FlyQuest know, that Fnatic has to be starting on the bottom side of the map. So that just means that there will be an opportunity for Yuji to try and come down and not be counter-ganked by Fnatic. Of course, Yuji's not going to be the one who's actually going to be trying to start that off. It's going to be on Tomo and Diamond, the veterans of the squad, trying to find an opportunity to get things started. And they definitely do more damage, and with the kind of lack of damage that Array brings off in the first couple of minutes of the game, I feel like this might be their easiest way, but they gotta get this wave in if they want to try and bring down Yuji to actually find a gank.
Yeah, they're not pushing it too hard right now. It's just the last hitting coming through from Tomo. You're gonna get a missed ability there too from Tomo, so that's kind of a rough way to start out. But the expectation, I think, right now is the Fnatic is going to be heading one of their directions relatively soon, so why put too much pressure down when the expectation is that Yuji might be doing the same, and Fnatic actually maybe moving around here towards the mid lane.
This is bold coming through, right? The only way they really do anything here is with a dive, because there's no camps to pick up. And look at that, they think he's on red buff.
There it is. Spyrax, of course, is pretty far forward. It's going to be the flash out and first blood with the Maw.
What were we saying? We were saying that Yuji needed to be the one to find a lot of these early game plays in order to put FlyQuest ahead, but it's Fnatic who's going to be the first one. We said he's so smart with all this pathing, Insanity, creating these plays, and this is something that a lot of our amateur teams are really good at. They make some really strong levels 1 through 3 plays, and 100 Thieves already showing that they can do that. Now the question is that something that they can continue, or are they going to just try and rest on their laurels? That's one of the things that we saw 100 Thieves Next have some troubles in the one series that they lost up against Maryville.
We've already got the recall coming through from Insanity. That's another one that we haven't talked about much, and that can be a saving grace potentially here. Spyrax also having gone back here. We can see the Darkseid already picked up. That's a confident pickup pretty early on, Joshi. So Insanity has a good feeling about the follow-up from Fnatic.
I mean, I would be pretty confident about it too, right? You already have this first blood. Victor's going to be getting towards that early evolve relatively quickly, so we'll have a lot of freedom to control the wave. And seeing this early game lead already come up from Sandy is nice. His sword goes in.
He tries. He's going to miss the depth charge on that one. Diamond trying to avoid the damage and is able to do so with the bush. Up in the top side, we got a little bit of a back and forth as well. Sniper getting pretty low on mana, so has to watch out for that one. Of course, Philip, very resilient as this Scion.
Yeah. I mean, we are starting to see a little bit of the cracks, right? Philip, I said we hadn't really seen the Scion come out of him particularly often, and I think this might be the first time that we actually see him play. And we're seeing some small windows where Sniper is just a little bit more confident on his pick, as Insanity being way more aggressive in this lane than he really should be expected to as a Victor.
Oh, I mean, that's Insanity for you, though. This is such an aggressive team. It is. It's in the name. He lives up to it. He consistently does this. And, you know, this is one where he was able to get a bit of a counter pick on the matchup, as he was the last choice here for 100X. But at the same time, even in a counter pick play, Insanity is the kind of guy that goes for these nutty plays. And generally, it's because he knows he's got the support, whether it's from Fnatic early on or even from Sword, who, while he's not as much of a roaming support, he still does supply that when it's necessary.
Yeah, and I also want to say that, like, Insanity should be feeling pretty good up against a lot of these players, right? He's played up against a lot of the Academy squads. He was on Team Liquid Academy for, I believe it was 2 years, and I actually casted alongside him. I was there and did a number of interviews with him, as we see
Ooh,
Attack.
that initiation, Diamond able to get that shield on. It pops and deals quite a bit of damage on top of it. Tomo just sitting back. Fnatic not quite there soon enough to get some retaliation, especially with Yuji right there on the dragon.
I'm surprised that Yuji is willing to go for this, right? He does have a prio in the bottom lane, but his mid lane has backed away. And now that Insanity has also backed away, it looks like he is going to be rewarded. Fnatic not willing to go in without his mid laner. And it is going to be an early first dragon going over to FlyQuest. So Yuji still showing some resilience, despite the fact that Fnatic kind of had a stronger early path. But this is where we got to pay attention, right? We said 100 Thieves, they have a really good ability to play their first couple of minutes out in a very strong way. We saw the first path coming from Fnatic, find them first blood. But this is where a lot of the amateur teams are kind of showing not as much access to resources as the academy teams. They kind of stall out in this period relatively heavily, and it gives the academy teams who have a lot more resources to try and find their way back in, try and find these big plays, while the amateur teams aren't quite ready to respond to them.
Yeah, particularly in a situation like that where it seemed like Fnatic had eyes on Yuji and saw that he was the only one. Sure, you can assume that there are other players somewhere around that can participate in that fight, but there were also other members of 100 Thieves, and it's at this point in the game, it's less than 7 minutes in, but those objectives early on do make a very big difference, especially for the roamability here for this team, how they're going to be able to initiate into the later game.
Yeah, I also want to give a quick correction to everybody. It was actually, Yuji did manage to get Challenger in EU West on the really high ping, and we're also telling him that we got Challenger in North America, EU West, and China all at once. This guy is very strong. Apologies to Yuji for using the wrong information, but look at this attack coming out from Fnatic. He's not stalling out, he's still looking for plays.
Philip trying to proxy this wave here. Of course, just giving Yuji some time and space. He's not quite as aggressive as Fnatic here, who has to recall on that play. A little bit of a gold lead in favor of 100 Thieves, but they're still not quite able to make the moves that they're wanting to at this point. We need to see a little bit more aggression from them early on for them to really be able to kind of start the snowball that this team is going to need towards the later game.
For 100 Thieves, I don't feel like they need to snowball, Jolly. I feel like they're very happy taking this game pretty late, right? The big question you always have to ask when you have a Zeri on your team is, who's going to kill this guy, right? And Array, one of our better defensive players, is looking at this other team and is like, well, maybe if Philip and Diamond both get onto me, but I got Fnatic and Sword. I got some big boys standing in the way. Just try and come at me. You're not going to be able to actually find their way. It's really going to be on Spyrix and Tomo to use a lot of that assassination power that we were kind of touching on in order to find that. And I feel like 100 Thieves, they scale well. They have lots of poke. They control choke points incredibly well with their composition. So I still feel like it's on Yuji, right? He's got the first dragon. He's got a small CS lead, but that's not enough for Viego to take over the game.
He needs a little bit of time, a little bit more gold, and that's why it looks like the team is kind of giving this space for Yuji to be able to make these moves. The quick jumps on to these objectives. We can see the pings right now around that Rift Herald. So this is Yuji taking no time to say, yeah, I am trying to make these moves, but I'm not making too much of a risk by going in without having those items that I really need to be able to, you know, jump on damage dealers like Sniper and Insanity on Jace and Victor.
Yeah. There's one way that you can snowball the game. It's not necessarily going for yourself, which is what a lot of these players will go for. They'll just try and get themselves ahead. But you can also try and snowball the game and putting clocks on the opposing team. Even though it looks like 100 Thieves are going to be scaling a little bit better into this game, and their team fights are a little bit easier to navigate later on, if they're just behind in gold and they're behind in objectives and they have to always come in later to try and fight some of these dragons, it's going to be a very difficult spot. And I love the fact that Yuji has managed to pick up both of these early game objectives in the first dragon and this first herald in order to kind of create a little bit of pressure, despite the fact that his lanes are just going okay at best, right? You're noticing that the only place where they have a real lead is in the bottom lane, where Tomo and Diamond, the veterans of the squad, are trying to beat up on Arrow and Sword.
Yeah, and it's even then it's not that much. This easily recoverable here by Array, who has a little bit of leeway right now in the lane, and there's a lot of nice vision that has also been placed here by 100 Thieves towards the bottom side, actually towards the top side as well. Very aggressive, potentially moving in as objectives come closer and closer. About a minute for the next Drake, where we are hopefully, I think, for 100 Thieves, going to see them make a move onto that objective.
We'll see. I mean, I think it's a situation where if they get there first, they're very happy. They have a lot of poke coming through. Sniper obviously does quite a bit. Insanity is going to be able to poke from outside of the range of what FlyQuest can really do to him. But they don't have their items online, right? And I think they're still okay giving over one more dragon as long as they are safe going into the rest of the game. And you are seeing, right, they are very happy with their current position. Sniper is up a decent amount on Philip in what is supposed to be a pretty good matchup for the Sion. Victor is decently ahead of Ari because of the early games coming in from Fnatic, and we are seeing that despite the fact that Array is a little bit behind where Tomo is, they're not so far behind that the Zeri isn't going to be hitting their item spikes at the times that they really need. And if we can continue seeing them scale up, they're going to be looking even good. But it looks like they're taking your advice. They want to try and find this fight, and they are already here first.
I've been watching this team quite a bit here, Joshi, and I do like the way that they set up for fights a lot of the times here. They're removing some of the vision, as we can see, and they're rotating towards the top side, placing more defensive vision now instead, and that's going to force the pressure down from FlyQuest on the bottom. Honestly, I get scared about a lot of the fights that they decide to take when it comes to splits like this, but they tend to do it and they pull it off somehow.
Yeah. Well, that is the big question, right? Sniper does have the teleports before 14 minutes, so it's not easy for him to find this flank. And despite the early game vision they were able to pick up, they were able to zone off FlyQuest a little bit. FlyQuest still feeling so strong, they just walk right in, and 100 Thieves gonna have to give over that ground. So that is 2 dragons already picked up for the FlyQuest team. They are starting to put a little bit of a clock onto the members of 100 Thieves. But the question is going to be, are they going to be able to do more than that? This clock is ticking, but it's ticking so slowly that they're not going to be able to find this really big lead, and Insanity is going to be the first one to start moving down.
You can tell they were poising for a fight, but the question is when. It's absolutely now. We get the ultimate to come out from Array. Diamond on himself is going to throw out one of his own. A nice little pop right there. It's going to deal a lot of damage to the back line here and force Array and Sword back. Diamond able to get away from this, including the Chaos Storm to come out from Insanity. And out comes 100 Thieves, ahead by 2.
Yeah, find another kill, and it's going to be a basically even gold trade, and Sniper needs to be a little bit careful because Spyrex was cheating towards the top side of the map. But just seeing the Herald usage be entirely neutralized by 100 Thieves is a big reason why this 100 Thieves roster is so scary for the rest of the team. And that's one of the things, okay, that's one of the things that we've been seeing. Philip is not supposed to get hit by those Qs. He should be able to use the Q in order to get the knockup. But this other side of the map, Tomo just not quite able to deal with the fact that Sword has this point-and-click crowd control. And after that, it's just a matter of trying to chase down Diamond. But there's not a whole lot more play. It really just is some really quick shot calling coming out from Sword, finding that first crowd control, and the rest is history.
The crowd control is definitely helping out this team quite a bit. We could see Diamond was able to get the ultimate, was able to get himself out, but lost Tomo in the process. And those are not the members of the team that you want to lose in that instance here. Spyrax and Tomo both having gone down. Of course, the kill went over to Sword, so, you know, there's at least a grain of salt that you take with that one. Fnatic, however, is now 1-0-1. Has to catch up, though, because it was quite a bit of time that he wasted, not wasted, but utilized there to kind of roam around for the initiation on that fight.
Yeah, it is a lot of time that the Volibear does have to kind of give up in order to try and find some of these early game plays, but I feel like it's been well worth it, right? He's got the kill, he's got the assist, he's getting to the Mythic at about the same time as Yuji is, and while he is a little bit behind in farm, it's not going to be the make or break for the game. This Volibear is always going to be relatively stable later on in the game. He's going to do what Volibear does. He's going to yell at you. He's going to jump on in and try and stun different people. But look at this. Diamond may be going a bit too aggressive.
He's able to dodge a few abilities right there. Array manages to get one over the wall. Hey, that's a defensive ward down. 30 gold in your pocket and 70 away from them on top of it. Of course, the plates have now fallen, so no more opportunities to gain the extra gold on those. The majority of that was picked up, at least in plate gold, by FlyQuest Academy earlier on.
Yeah. Oh, Spyrex.
Going in on Insanity. That's the lockdown from Yuji. Gets to walk away and hands another kill over to Spyrax.
Yeah, good stuff coming out from Spyrax, trying to find some revenge for the earlier game play where he was the one who ended up getting dove. I love the patience with the Everfrost to make sure that the charm is guaranteed. And there's not, shouldn't be,
Every time.
Yeah,
it's rough.
Every time.
Sniper's just too good at that.
I mean, Sniper's good, right? We know he's good at this laning phase, but the place where we're really waiting for him to come online and look insanely strong is when these team fights actually start. We haven't actually seen him join the rest of the squad, and right now, the fact that he's already up is good, but when those shock blasts start coming out for the rest of the team, when we start lining up for the 3rd and 4th dragons, that's when Sniper is really going to come into his own.
And that always manages to happen, especially when
It always
he is
does.
playing this Jace. He has got some good charges on that tier. He's got the Eclipse all finished up, and he's got a Fnatic Volibear in his back pocket. But it's going to be Yuji who once again makes the first move on this objective, picks up the second Rift Herald. All 4 of these major objectives having gone over to FlyQuest Academy.
And he's gotten 3 of them basically by himself. That's a really impressive ability for Yuji to kind of read the map and know nobody's going to be able to try and contest me for this. I'm just going to hit it. There's no way there's a ward here. And picking it up a minute before the 3rd dragon does give you an opportunity to try and use it as a distraction, right? And that's going to be what we're going to have to pay attention to for the side of FlyQuest, right? Philip has his teleport for this fight. Every single ultimate and basically every single summoner spell on both teams is going to be available. And this is where the teams can make or break as we start jockeying for position.
That's kind of one of the things that you were talking about that was in favor of FlyQuest, you know, as the game goes on, is their initiation, their ability to dive into these fights or, you know, even disconnect themselves from those. And it's been a lot of this poke damage that's been coming out of 100 Thieves that just has not been avoided by FlyQuest. So it's not going to be the teleport that is used here, as we can see Philip navigating his way down, but they are looking for a pinch on the mid lane.
Yeah, they're going to be able to crash this Herald. Should take down this turret if, entirely down, and that will be giving FlyQuest opportunities to just move into the river first. And as the rest of it, 100 Thieves start to come over, this dragon's going to be going down fast.
And that's a lot that you are giving over to FlyQuest. They have to make this fight. Sword is the one that gets jumped on, has to flash away. Fnatic goes into stasis. Diamond on top of it. The Chaos Storm all on the back line. But here it is. Philip is in the wings, trying to deal damage to Fnatic, who isn't really the target, but he's peeling away the rest of the team. Tomo able to pick up Insanity. Sword now on the run. The Q is going to be flashed by Sniper, but Array and Fnatic are picked up. Array then uses his flash to get over the wall. Fnatic able to barely escape this fight thanks to his Q and being able to run on all 4s.
Dude, what a crazy game coming through, Jolly. Every single time it feels like these two teams are just kind of lining up and remain so even. Just one kill being traded back and forth, one death here and there, and it ends up being a third dragon going over towards the members of FlyQuest because they're just there first. I've been seeing this a whole lot from the 100 Thieves main roster over in LCS, and it feels like FlyQuest are just able to play it. They do it the dragon before there's any opportunity for 100 Thieves to get in, and then when they take the team fight afterwards, yes, it's a little bit all over the place because teleports are coming into opposite sides because both teams still have a lot of damage to put out, and because nobody was able to find a blowout team fight win, it ends up just being a bit of a 1-for-1 as people just chase everybody around the map.
It is still the objectives, though, in favor of FlyQuest. Of course, there was no... I mean, there was an attempt for 100 Thieves to get in there in time to be able to maybe snag that dragon, but alas, it did not come to fruition for them, so you still got to consider the next dragon. 100 Thieves next has to fight.
Yeah, and I feel like they are going to be well equipped to do so, right? Insanity has fallen twice at this point, but he is still a victor with 2 assists. He's got his E evolve. He's going to be continuing to level up. By the time they hit level 13 and this next dragon, he's going to be well online. Might even have the Shadow Flame completed by that point. And the rest of the team, we already said, they have such long range, Jolly.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do with that?
Good initiation. You know, you stand back, you poke, you do exactly what has been done. So that is all you can do. Get Tomo jacked up, right? If you are FlyQuest at this point, you get Tomo as far ahead as possible. Diamond has been doing a good job of trying to take as much as possible, but the fact that he dropped in the beginning just means he's just slightly behind. He's picked up his Vamp Scepter now. He's got his Gale Force locked down. He has the ability to reposition at this point. And if Philip and Yuji can hop in and also Spyrax able to throw down the crowd control they need, Tomo's good, and it's going to be Fnatic who initiates onto this one. He's able to walk back, though, and avoid the rest of the team.
Yeah, the big thing that we're going to have to pay attention to is how well FlyQuest actually use some of these flanks. How well can they actually just get the fight started before taking too much poke? You talked about it, right? It is going to be on Philip. It's going to be on Diamond to try and find these direct ways in. But the other things that we can start looking for is Spyrax. Something that he's been working on over the last half of the season is trying to find better flank angles, better opportunities to find his way onto the back line. If he finds a charm on Sniper, Insanity, or Array, suddenly the team fight becomes much more winnable.
We'll see if that comes through now. Insanity, Fnatic, and Sword maybe looking for a fight here. We do have some pings towards the bottom lane as well, though, as Sniper starts an initiation onto Philip. Just a little back and forth. Philip now tanky enough that he can withstand some of this, but can he deal the responding damage to Sniper is the question.
Yeah, I really love watching Sniper play this because he's holding on to the Thundering Blow. He's not using the Hammer E in order to knock Philip away just willy-nilly. He's trying to make sure he holds on to it, so as soon as Philip moves in and starts charging the Q, Sniper's ready to stop it.
Some damage back towards the top lane. Neither team poised in quite the position they were looking for to actually start a fight. That means that there's a bit of resets going on, and we can see that Tomo has gained position in the mid lane. That means that he is now broken 200 creep, and that definitely feels good if you are the Cephalios just trying to grind towards the late game.
Yeah, and he's definitely a player that I think we can start looking at, right? We talked about him a bit at the very beginning. He's been playing for a while now, and he's been one of these very stable members for the team of FlyQuest. But this is an opportunity for him to try and show that he can be more than that, show that he can be really, really aggressive. And one of the things that you always look at for Aphelios is how aggressive can these players be? Can they gale force forward? Can they use that ult? Can they find their roots on the right targets? Are they going to be blowing everybody up with Collector style and the Flamethrower all at once? It's something we haven't necessarily been seeing quite as much out of Tomo, but he might need to do that in order to find some opportunities. But FlyQuest are here at the Dragon first, and this is what we were saying, 100 Thieves need to fight.
They need to fight. A lot of their vision's getting taken down, but they are looking for the initiation sword here on the front line, but it's Philip that he's contending with, and there's a lot of armor, again, already underneath his belt. Plus the potential opportunity for him to respond. Sword ends up taking the charm. He goes down. Now it's up to Yuji, who is able to pick up that kill here. Continuing forward, the Solar Flare to come out onto Array. And the following player is going to fall from 100 Thieves next. Yuji picking up a double kill for himself. A beautiful pop coming out of Philip. He's going to be able to take out Sniper, and things are just falling apart for 100 Thieves next.
And the last hope for Amateur looks to be in a pretty dire situation in this first game, Jolly. It's a huge win coming up from FlyQuest, and they're going to be able to find themselves the Cloud Soul at this point. 2 uncontested kills onto people that we weren't thinking they could actually find. But as the replay jumps in and out, Sword just goes a little bit too far forward, hooks the wall, and puts himself in a spot where the rest of the team can't help. They haven't gotten enough poke down. There was time before the Dragon actually spawned, and it feels like that's one of the things that the Academy teams are a little bit better at. They're better at waiting for their good opportunities, where Sword thinks he's found Tomo, but he was wrong.
Yeah, and I do think having kind of sacrificed... Oh, the teleport is going to come through now. Insanity is the decision that Philip is making here. He's not going to be able to connect, though, and that means the teleport maybe for naught.
Yeah, well, I mean, Nautilus is still down the river, right? So I think he's going to be okay, right? But
that's a good point. It's a recall from Insanity, I suppose. Look at the pings coming out there. They want to make a move. The ultimate finally coming through from Philip. He's going for Array, who's just able to dash over the wall. He's got to stop that one. Sword able to find the hook on the depth charge, but the Q should pop him up. Philip gets taken it in response, and the Blast Cone is the means of escape here for Sword, who makes it out alive.
All right, well, not bad from Sword. I thought he was going to be in a pretty bad spot, but Spyrax is still going to be able to pick up this top lane turret, and I feel like this is a big opportunity right now for FlyQuest to start taking control of this top side of the map. They see Sniper, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're going to be going for this Baron, try and get the other teleport. They've already seen Insanity use his teleport to get back into the rest of that fight, and now Sniper's going to have to join as well.
Halfway down, FlyQuest decides to break away from this fight. Diamond gets locked down, a lot of damage onto Yuji, but on the backside, it's the charm that saves his life, and he manages to pick up the kill. The jump over the wall by Spyrax, he's able to burn another charge of his ultimate. Fnatic taking a lot, Sword taking a lot. Everyone on the side of 100 Thieves is taking too much damage. That means it's going to be a beautifully done ace, only losing Tomo for FlyQuest.
Oh my god, Spyrax is looking so good this game, Jolly. He's always finding opportunity. He marks Sniper at the very beginning of that fight and keeps him out, and once this Jace goes down, there's just not enough damage. 100 Thieves are getting second to all of these objectives. Just watch how quickly Spyrax is able to move around. He spots off Jace at the very beginning and kills him instantly. And then with the resets coming through, he's able to get onto Insanity, find his way onto Array, and he goes from carry to carry to carry, finding every single one of them before the fight ends.
So much damage, and the positioning was very unfortunate for 100 Thieves as well. It looked good. They had a lot onto Diamond, but the flank just didn't work out for 100 Thieves, and That is definitely a bit of a slap to the face for them, having the advantage, a good portion of the game, at least in terms of gold and some pressure here. But I really do think sacrificing those early game objectives reinforce this late game front line initiation that FlyQuest is relying on.
Yeah, I mean, FlyQuest, they're just playing their composition well. They're being in places first. They're asking 100 Thieves how they're going to be dealing with trying to come in afterwards. 100 Thieves thrive in situations where they are there first, but this is what all the resources are doing. FlyQuest have so many more opportunities to get good coaching than a lot of these other amateur squads, and we're starting to see a little bit more of that. FlyQuest now in total control, completely shutting out 100 Thieves, and Sniper feels like the only way he can get back in is to go to split.
There it is. Diamond's going to go over the wall with the Zenith Blade, follow it up with the Solar Flare. A lot of damage on top of having that. Everfrost is going to pick up a kill for Philip. Spyrax taking this one. It is the Chaos Storm that comes out. Philip gets locked down. Can he take enough of this? A lot of damage comes from the backside. Insanity and Array, they are capable of taking him down. But a lot of pressure put here into the mid side by FlyQuest, and they're not quite done yet. Array potentially in a vulnerable spot. It's not Array, no. It's Fnatic who has to use the Stormbringer to get out of that. And it's going to be a tower that gets taken down by FlyQuest in the end.
It is. I mean, they pick it up with all the minions that are pushing, but a little bit of an overextension coming out does mean that Philip goes down. A shutdown is picked up by the members of 100 Thieves, and Sword now back out on the map, potentially looking for another fight.
His Diamond takes a lot of damage, but the charm onto the backside means that
Oh,
Sniper has to flash away. He stays alive. Can he deal more damage onto the backside? Sword tries to go in, has to depth charge out, and oh my goodness, that cannon is devastating for Tomo, who just takes so much, but the split fight might work out here for FlyQuest. Spyrax is able to get away, as are Tomo and the rest of the gang here with UG.
Yeah, FlyQuest, they're looking to be a bit over-aggressive. They're trying to end the game before all the scaling tools come online for 100 Thieves. Insanity now has the Shadow Flame. He's starting to do a bit of damage, and he's really going to be important to all the upcoming team fights. But Jolly, there's one real chance left for 100 Thieves. There's an Elder Dragon coming up in about a minute, and win or lose on that fight could easily be the way that this game goes. And I know both of us said that we were expecting 100 Thieves to take this series 2-1. This might be the one that FlyQuest got kind of the kick in the pants that 100 Thieves might need, because we haven't necessarily been seeing them come alive outside of that very first play they made on the map. They've kind of been letting FlyQuest dictate a lot of the rest of the game, and that's not something you can do as the last hope of amateur.
Well, a kick in the pants, that's for sure. And even just looking at the items here, 12 stacks on the Magi's for Spyrax, and that Dark Seal for Insanity not turning into a Magi's for him, and he is just getting rid of that. So that just goes to show you got to play a lot safer, and they didn't get that force out. You're right, a teleport to the top to help out Philip. Spyrax already up there. Philip still has his TP, so if he needs to, he can come back down to this fight.
I mean, I respect it from FlyQuest. They do not want to give an opportunity to flip the game over this Dragon. They know they're in a dominating position. They don't need to necessarily fight for the Elder. They just need to make sure that 100 Thieves can never smite it. So they get one turret top. They're looking to find an opportunity to come back in. And Philip, looking for a potential engage. But now, this is what they do. They take an opportunity where 100 Thieves were controlling the Dragon. FlyQuest go top lane and revert it back. So now they're in control of the Dragon.
They have already got the Elder locked down. It's been so difficult for 100 Thieves to fight any of these plays around this objective. Sword takes a lot of damage, but they're able to get so much crowd control onto Philip, who's going to be the first one to go down on this fight. Nobody else having taken much damage, though.
Yeah, I really like it from 100 Thieves. They recognize, like, hey, we can't just walk through this sign, but the rest of FlyQuest weren't ready to actually turn it around. We just praised FlyQuest for getting in there first, but 100 Thieves ready to turn things around. A very short pause, instantly comes back in. 100 Thieves are going to go back to the game. They're doing the Elder Dragon. Guys, go back. The game's happening.
Oh my gosh, go, Elder Drake, it's down, the fight is on. FlyQuest looking for some sort of ability to get themselves into this fight, and that is going to do it. A solar flare, Yuji, so much damage on the backside. It's Fnatic who has to jump away. Tomo Diamond keeping this one alive. The Chaos Storm, though, does come out. Yuji taking a lot of that damage. Sword almost goes down thanks to the cannon. Nobody dealing enough damage to this Elder Dragon to pick it up, but at the same time, not killing enough of these members to really actually go in on this fight 100%. It's Insanity, though. You said to look for Philip, and there he is on the backside. Array will be the next one to Mal. A double kill, a flash forward, make that a triple kill, and now Insanity has to escape this with his life. He has a flash, he has a teleport, but can he make it back in time to potentially save the base?
Oh boy, I don't know if he's going to be able to leave at all. The Cloud Soul coming from Philip means he's just so fast trying to chase Insanity down. Oh my,
there it
the
is, the
stun
teleport.
keeps him alive.
Use the teleport. That's how he's going to do it. He comes up right as Sniper does, so the base does not go down, but it is absolutely broken into and has taken quite a bit of damage. We'll have to see if Diamond is capable to do it. He's got the charm. They've got the solar flare. Sniper's the next target. There's just not enough of a front line for these players to do anything against Yuji. Spyrax and Diamond soaking up everything, and it's the last shot now as a member at least gets taken down in Diamond, but Yuji is still alive and well. Looking for a perfect game. He has not died a single time. Fnatic might be the last hope for him to pick up another kill, but that is okay. So well done towards the end. FlyQuest takes game number 1 off of 100 Thieves next.
Oh my gosh, Jolly. I was expecting these games to be bangers, but I wasn't expecting them to be controlled wins coming up from FlyQuest like we just saw. I just gotta say, yes, Yuji had the perfect game. Yes, we pumped him up, but I feel like so much of this game was off the back of Spyrax on this Ahri. Again, marking individual players, finding opportunities to find all these charms into all the carries, and giving Yuji the resets he needs in order to take over the rest of the fight. So FlyQuest, I don't know what's been happening with a lot of these academy teams, because a lot of the ones that we were expecting to do really well are already doing well, but the ones that we weren't expecting quite as much of have suddenly come alive. They've got this chip on their shoulder that says, we're not going to lose to an amateur team whatsoever. God damn, I don't care what any of the analysts think.
That's the unfortunate side if you're a fan of the amateur teams like I am, having watched so much of them. And there was the potential here, absolutely, for 100 Thieves Next. It looked so good in the early game. They had the first blood, they had the early lead, they had the pressure, and then they just kept giving up those dragons. And again, I've watched this team quite a bit. I've gotten the opportunity to cast this team almost more than any of the others in amateur as of late, because they've just been performing so well and are on so many games. Exactly. And that's not something they do very often. You can tell you can't give up these objectives. They're going to get the pressure in the bottom side of the map. That's what happened. FlyQuest felt good. They recognized where the chinks in the armor were for 100 Thieves. So that needs to be cleaned up if our 2-1 prediction is going to come to fruition.
We'll see what happens, right? It is a situation where, again, we praise them for their early game plan. Fnatic having this early pathing that we were saying might not get matched by Yuji, he showed it. But just as we were saying, a lot of these amateur teams are kind of stall out in the mid game. They're not necessarily looking for all these plays, and it didn't look like 100 Thieves knew when they needed to turn it back on. Whereas FlyQuest, they knew that they were the beatdown. They knew were the team that needed to make some of these things happen in order to have enough of a lead when these late game fights were actually going to start. And because of that, they were in every single objective first. They were able to push 100 Thieves around and take control of all the geography that they wanted.
Spawn, 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 take. That's how FlyQuest ran that game. The only thing that had a couple minutes delay was the Baron, and even then, I'm pretty sure they took it pre-25 or right around that mark. So it's looking really good for this team. We're going to have to see what side selection 100 Thieves gets, as they did lose this game. They have priority on that pick. Blue side, maybe the Jinx is going to come out like we were kind of questioning earlier, Joshi, but we're not going to find out until we take a very quick break. So don't go anywhere. More Proving Grounds right after this.